Now for today's Shaman King video, we're going to be going over something that a lot of people surprisingly don't really understand within the Shaman King community. The concept of Furyoku and Reiryoku and which one is better. In other words, between Furyoku and Reiryoku, which one is the most important or superior in a shaman fight? Furyoku, the spiritual power of a shaman, or Reiryoku, the spiritual power of a spirit. In a fight, both types of spiritual energy have their pros and cons, but only one is far superior than the other. And I want to take a moment to debunk some foolish claims that really don't make sense in terms of the series. And these are the same claims that fans have made. Now, I don't know why they make these claims, because it's so fucking mind-numbing. Now before this video actually starts, please keep in mind that if you want a more in-detailed explanation on Furyoku or Reiryoku, I already have videos on those, so you should check them out if you have any more questions after this video. But when it comes to what's superior, it's going to always be Furyoku, and this is almost undebatable. Well, actually, it really is undebatable unless you have some crazy circumstances where you could use your Reiryoku in a fight to win. For example, Horohoro's fight against Blocken. The only reason why he was able to beat Blocken was because Hao's minions were underestimating him, and he was able to take advantage and use that against him and trap him in the ocean. Unless you're outsmarting your opponent on this level, there will never be an opportunity for you to defeat someone who has a significantly higher Furyoku level than you with Reiryoku alone. Unless you are under some really bizarre circumstances where the person with higher Furyoku than you was underestimating you and you were able to basically take advantage of their arrogance and lead them into a trap. And the same can be said for basically any fight when you're fighting a shaman that has a significantly higher Furyoku level than you. If you and your opponent are in the same Furyoku range as seen with Yoh and Taoren, there is still a possibility that you could still beat him despite him having a higher number than you. But at the end of the day, these numbers matter and they're extremely important. A lot of people think these numbers do not matter, but the margin only gets larger. And you'll hit a point where your creativity can no longer help you. And this is why in the series nobody can defeat Hao, because his number is so high that literally nobody can stand a chance. Now, not to get too far off topic, I'm going to save the Furyoku talk for maybe another Furyoku video, because after all, this video is about Reiryoku and Furyoku. So again, the circumstances when you would be able to win a fight with Reiryoku against a shaman with a higher Furyoku level than you is extremely slim. Because 100% of the time, if a shaman has a higher Furyoku level than you, he's probably stronger than both you and your spirit. Because if a spirit had a higher Reiryoku level than your Furyoku level, you wouldn't be able to use it, because the moment you use it, you would die. Because your mind and body would not be strong enough to handle your spirit's power. So you'd have to have a spirit that's at the same level as you as a shaman, which means that you'd have to have a spirit with the same Reiryoku level as your Furyoku level. And if your opponent is stronger than both you and your spirit, there's no way you're going to be able to fight them. So even if you wanted to, you wouldn't be able to fight somebody with a higher Furyoku level than you, because there would be no way for you to damage them. And this is demonstrated in the Yoh versus Taoren fight. The amount of energy you put into your Oversoul would not be strong enough to damage your opponent's Oversoul. And because you cannot damage their Oversoul, because you cannot put enough spiritual power into your attacks, or in this case enough Furyoku into your attacks, you would be wasting Furyoku. And once you finally run out of Furyoku, you'll lose the fight. And because you cannot break your opponent's Oversoul, because you cannot generate enough Furyoku into your own Oversoul, they will have unlimited stamina until you break their Oversoul. 9 times out of 10, if a shaman has a higher Furyoku level than you, you are not going to beat them unless you have a special ability or there are certain circumstances in which you could flex your creativity and defeat them. Silva even says this himself. Despite Amidamaru surpassing Basan in spiritual power, no matter how skillful of an earth spirit Amidamaru is, there is still no way a lower powered oversoul can beat a higher one. The only reason why Yoh was able to beat Tao Ren was because of his special power. Those of you who have read the manga can most likely guess what this special power is, and if you don't, I'll save you from spoilers. But the Yoh vs Tao Ren fight and the Horo vs Blocken fight are just some examples of these special circumstances in which a shaman with less Furyoku is beating a shaman with more Furyoku. One is through a special ability and the other is through creativity. But again, outside of these special circumstances, if you're using Reiryoku in a fight against a shaman with a higher Furyoku level, you would most likely not be able to do anything. But there is one situation in which you could actually beat somebody with Reiryoku despite having a lower Furyoku level than them. Remember how I said if your spirit has a higher Reiryoku level than your Furyoku level, you could potentially die if you use it? Well, there's actually the possibility you could take advantage of a small time frame so that you can use your spirit's power without dying. And this is exactly what Hans from X-Laws does against Hao. Despite having a Furyoku level of 10,000, he's able to maintain an oversoul with Azazel that has a Reiryoku level of 470,000. But he can only maintain this oversoul for 3 seconds or he'll die. So in this brief time frame, you might have the chance to defeat your opponent despite them having a larger Furyoku number than you. But if their Furyoku number is larger than that same spirit that you're using this technique with, you're honestly just gonna die. As seen with Hell in the manga. And with that being said, Furyoku is definitely superior to Reiryoku, outside of maybe having a few opportunities of a surprise attack with Reiryoku, or having a spirit that far surpasses your opponent's Furyoku level and Reiryoku level. And through these differences between Reiryoku and your opponent's Furyoku, this will give you the opportunity to briefly one-shot them if they do not dodge, or, you know, if they're not stronger than you. And with that being said, Furyoku is superior to Reiryoku, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video because I'll be making more videos on Shaman King, and I'll see y'all later.